Welcome at the DPW 2022 edition in Amsterdam. Welcome. We are in the VIP area in which I have the honor to interview some of our speakers and our partners. My name is Desiree Hoving and next to me is sitting Michelle from Datadog. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes. Well, I'm curious. Datadog is a monitoring and security platform, and your role in Datadog is Senior Director of Procurement.
Yes.
And I'm curious, can you explain a bit what you do?
Yes, definitely. So I started at Datadog 3.5 years ago, and I was the first procurement hire at the organization at a really pivotal time for the company. So it was pre-IPO, and we had to implement a ton of processes to get us ready to be a public company, and spend management and procurement were some of the buckets that I needed to work on to sort of get us ready for that next step. So currently, everything that's under my team, it's contracts management. So all of our contracts and our buying goes through my team. The end-to-end procurement process, which includes vendor onboarding and due diligence at the beginning. So when somebody identifies a vendor that they want to move forward with and do business with, there are, a huge amount of groups that need to look at the tool depending on the type of vendor and the type of service that they provide. So that's under my team. The actual negotiation of the contracts and the, getting the best price and understanding the buying strategy for that particular purchase is under my team. Again, the contracts management piece, and then also issuing out purchase orders and helping with processing invoices as well. So that end-to-end process is under my team, and we sort of bridge the gap between all of the groups that are involved in the process as well.
Wow, that's a challenging job, I
Absolutely.
can imagine, especially in this time in which the world is changing so fast. You said 3.5 years you're working in this team, and a lot has happened in this period.
Right.
For example, the pandemic and other global challenges.
Right.
So what is your biggest challenge to deal with?
Sure. I think what you just said is absolutely my biggest challenge. It's keeping up with the changing world around me, and also the changing company that I'm working for. So when I started at the company, it was much smaller, really, I think a little over 1,000 employees, and now we're at about 4,500 employees. So it really is keeping up with the demand of our internal stakeholders. As you grow, you buy more things, of course. So my team has to do a lot more. There's a lot more internal stakeholders that we need to deal with, and then also train them on that process as well to ensure that everything is compliant and we're following, the processes and procedures that we've spent such a long time implementing, that they're actually being adhered to. So keeping up with the demand, and I think also staying ahead of the curve and trying to forecast how the company is going to change in the next year or so, and how the market is going to change as well. Keeping up with that, and of course we all wish that we had a crystal ball, but we don't. So sometimes, you make mistakes and you just change them as you go and keep going.
Wow. Datadog is helping businesses to secure their systems, avoid downtime, and ensure customers are getting the best user experience. And how do you improve this user experience with the procurement processes as a tech company?
Sure, yeah. So this is also one of the biggest challenges that I have. So earlier in the year, we actually sent out a survey to our internal stakeholders to understand what their frustrations were with the process and where they felt like we could improve. And of course, it's definitely something you need to prepare yourself for, to read that feedback. Some of it is, it's hard to read because you feel like you're not doing a great job, but what you do from there is just take on the challenge of being better. And we are constantly changing our process to make it easier for our internal stakeholders to maneuver and to increase their satisfaction with the process. Because at the end of the day, if the process is not easy to maneuver for our internal stakeholders, then the process is just not good at all, and you need to fix it. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and increasing our training for our internal stakeholders to make their lives easier.
It sounds really resilient to adapt all the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's definitely a challenge, but we learn so much from it, and we love taking on the challenges, and we continue to grow and get better.
Yeah. So my last question is: your team exists for 3.5 years now. Where are you right now? And maybe even more important, what is your next step going to be?
Yep, absolutely. So right now there's 5 people on the procurement team, and for a long time it was me and one other person, and we've really expanded a lot recently. And the most important next step for us is to branch out into strategic sourcing, which is starting to think about purchases more strategically rather than tactical procurement. So we are hiring a senior manager of strategic sourcing that's going to work alongside me, pushing out these new policies and processes. And it's incredibly exciting, but it's definitely the next step in our evolution.
Can you mention an example of how you deal with these big challenges in your company?
Of course. So I think one of the biggest things that, we've been working on lately are looking at our processes end to end and really identifying where we can automate these processes. So my team is having less administrative burden, and they can have more bandwidth to actually provide strategic insight into some of these, deals that we're working on. So for example, we looked at our end-to-end process. I sat down with my team and we went through everything, and where are you actually touching part of the process? Where is there that human interaction? And what we've done is we've implemented automation such as like a robot that follows up with our internal stakeholders if they need to approve something. We've automated comments that typically we would go into the system and actually manually leave ourselves. We've also worked on plenty of integrations between all of our different systems that prior we were actually manually moving these requests over to a different system. So all of these things help us open up bandwidth on our team to work on things that just add more value to the organization. Another project that we're working on currently is a vendor onboarding tool. So we're taking out what we currently have today because as part of that survey that I spoke about earlier, it's not working the way that it should. And our internal stakeholders gave us that feedback, which we actioned, and we are implementing a new vendor onboarding system, which will be a lot more automated and easy to navigate. So one of the main things is another manual test that my team has to take on is when we onboard a new vendor and we're doing business with them, we have to then send out contract templates and a ton of other paperwork for them to fill out, depending on the type of vendor that they are. So what we're doing is we're implementing into that system as part of the intake form. If it's a software, the system will then send out specific paperwork to that vendor based on the type of vendor that they are. So that's, again, less administrative work for my team, opens them up to more strategic projects, and it also helps them grow as employees, because when you're working on administrative things, you kind of lose sight of the bigger picture, and I want them all to grow and take on exciting projects rather than these administrative tasks.
Thank you. It sounds really interesting, and I wish you good luck with that in the
Thank you
near
so
future.
much. Thanks.
And I hope you enjoy this conference, DPW.
It's been great so far. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.